Deep in the center of the city was a large, lovely park. In the park there were many gardens, beautiful gardens. For those who would wander to the eastern corner, they would find themselves in a magnificent place. Brick pathways encircled a serene pool. In the center of the pool stood a graceful statue of a princess. She was the royal jewel set in this still garden. Most seasons welcomed the many visitors who ventured through elaborate wrought iron gates and down granite steps. The visitors lingered to enjoy the wealth of lush trees, an array of fragrant flowers, the birds and the small animals that lived amidst this city woodland haven. Here the statue stood in quiet greeting. Only in the cold of winter, when the snow and ice came, did people tucked up tight in their warm homes stay away from the park. The snow had melted from the bronze shoulders and arms. Fine green shoots pushed through wet, moist soil. The winter was past. A delicate spring air whispered, "Come into the garden," to everyone, especially the children. "Let us meet today in the park after school," the children said. "The sun is shining, the snow has gone, so we can go to our favorite garden." "The statue of the princess stands in the center of the pool where the water lilies grow," exclaimed a little girl as she was eager to feel the enchantment again. "I have longed to see her," said the boy. "She is very beautiful." At the end of the school day, they went to the park. The weather was glorious. The children believed the princess was their friend, even though she was a statue. Cast in bronze, the garments that adorned her slender figure told of times long ago. When the children arrived, they gathered near the statue. Drawn to look into the young woman's eyes, they thought there appeared a glimmer of recognition and warmth. Suddenly, out of the blue afternoon sky, came an imposing bird the color of midnight. The bold raven lighted on the outstretched arm of the statue. He was a lustrous blue-black feathered aviator, possessing a sharp beak under quick, piercing eyes. On the blossom-strewn bench, under a canopy of crabapple trees, an old man who regularly came to the princess's garden, sat concentrating raptly on the children and their conversation. Having lived near the park for many years, this kindly old gentleman was well known to parents and children alike. Having noticed the raven's arrival, he stood up to greet the bird, saying, "Oh, the time has come again. Yes, I will deliver the princess's invitation to the children. They do desire to meet her. How happy they will be in her country." With that, he turned facing the small group and continued, "I will tell you the story of Princess Sally. When you look at her statue, I can see by your expressions you are thinking that she must be a real person. So she is." The excited children were curious to hear the tale. Perhaps they would also discover the identity of the peculiar bird. "Please tell us all you know. We will sit down and listen right where we are," sang the children. Seated on the park bench, the elderly man began with great pleasure to tell the story of Princess Sally and her raven Joeko, the very same tale that he had heard as a small boy many years ago. In a land far beyond the highest mountains and across the deepest sea was a splendid kingdom, rich in worldly treasures and great natural beauty. Although many had heard of this kingdom, there were no foreign visitors. Hidden in uncharted country, the only map was given by royal invitation. The king and his family were so comfortable that they forgot to issue invitations to other countries. Thus, no visitors came. Good and kind, the king and queen were loved by all their subjects. Princess Sally was their cherished daughter. Everyone was charmed by her generous nature and friendly ways. Many mornings her lady-in-waiting would find her in the gardens that surrounded the castle. Princess Sally was drawn to the loveliness of the delicate roses and all the flowers and trees of her wondrous world. The pastel shades, the pink hues continued to ornament her thoughts throughout the day. Then, in the evening, the melodies of the nightingale brought a sweet repose to her gentle spirit. When morning came, a lark's song stirred a strange feeling born in her breast that she did not understand. The kindly storyteller paused to explain. Now, it may seem odd, but in Princess Sally's land, no one knew anything about music. No one had ever seen a musical instrument or heard a simple song. If you were to wander into the castle, you would notice the stone walls empty and bare. No one knew anything about the vast and imaginative world of art. Not one painting, not a single tapestry was hung. It was a wonder. Somehow the Muses had forgotten to visit this place. The people there did know how to read and write. Yet not one storybook or book of poems could be found in the entire kingdom. The old man's words caused the children to reflect on how much they enjoyed painting and drawing. They thought of all their favorite songs and books which they treasured. He continued. The years passed, and the princess grew into a lovely lady. The joy that she had felt frequently as a small child now came to her only in brief moments. She began to experience an emptiness, an intense hunger. The warm rose glow faded from her face. The lithe and graceful form grew weak. Alarmed at their daughter's condition, the king and queen sent for the royal physician. Mystified, he could find no explanation. The people in the kingdom began to tire of the princess's malady. Her Highness is not sick. She is simply spoiled, they complained. No longer did this gentle maiden, who was beauty's sincere admirer, walk in her garden or listen to hear the wood thrush song. Alone, Princess Sally lived in her chambers with an aching hunger. One early evening, she noticed from her tower window brilliant ribbons of crimson and orange, remnants of swirling patterns of color left in the sky by the setting sun. The light of dusk swept a prayer from her lips. The first silver star of night sparkled and glittered a message of hope. As if hearing Sally's plea, the star answered, Believe, princess, your request has been heard. That night, as she slept, dreams embraced the young woman. There in her dreams, King Odin of old presented her with a handsome and intelligent raven. The king told Sally that the bird was a descendant of two great ravens, Hugin and Munin, who had been personal messengers of his court. He bade her, Pay no heed to the legends that speak ill of ravens. Mischievous creatures at times, no others can claim to be as loyal. This raven will serve you well. King Odin spoke to Sally one last time before he vanished. His name is Joeko. He will stay with you always. Princess Sally awoke to a striking scene. Peering at her from the window ledge sat Raven Joeko, outlined in the bright light of the morning sun. His first words spoken to her were, Sweet princess, sweet Sally, my dear, never fear. I will appear when you call. Speak now if you have a care. princess moved swiftly out of bed. Thick brown hair swirled as a skirt dancing. She went quickly toward him to pour out her heart, asking, "Is there a way to stop this constant sorrow? What food will feed my hunger?" Raven Joeko reminded her of the long-forgotten invitations by saying, "Dear lady, an invitation must be written by your royal hand. It will then be my charge to deliver your message. After my departure, wait 3 days, for then your answer will be given." She wrote and folded one invitation on a piece of white parchment. Enclosed with the invitation, Princess Sally placed delicate rose petals and a map to her country. Joeko would do the rest. That very morning, the black-winged messenger flew from the castle window to cross the deepest sea and the highest mountains to deliver the princess's invitation. The raven would not fail her, this she knew. Waiting in her chamber on the afternoon of the 3rd day, Princess Sally heard a strangely enchanting sound lifted up to her on a soft spring breeze. Looking down from her window into her garden, she saw a woman sitting among the roses. In her hand she held a wooden harp, and with a lyric voice she sang a lovely song. The princess felt joy enter her heart where the sorrow had rested. Her pale face flushed. In her excitement, Sally called to her, "Who are you? Where did you come from? Good woman, you have given me much joy." The lady bid the princess to come out into the garden. The news spread quickly through the land of the foreign lady and her beautiful music. The kingdom was in rapturous delight. The king and queen noticed that their daughter's beauty was about her again, although her strength had not completely returned. During the summer, Raven Joeko returned to Princess Sally and encouraged her to invite another visitor. Once again, she wrote an invitation, enclosing rose petals and the map to her kingdom. Once again did she request Raven Joeko to fly and deliver her message. Joeko told his friend, "I will return in 3 days. Then we will sing a tale. We will tell stories." With these words, Joeko extended his long feathered wings to fly from her chambers. Looking back, he saw Sally wave to him and say, "Fare thee well, good friend. I await your return." So it came to pass in this faraway kingdom that a storyteller entered their midst. The visitor came to court, requesting an audience with the princess. After hearing one story, Sally asked to hear many more, and invited others of the kingdom to listen to the storyteller's tales. The visitor kept the stories written down in a book, which others could read. The stories would not be forgotten. The storyteller explained, "Why, you can write your own story. Anyone can." "What wonder, what delight!" cried Sally. Autumn came, and throughout the country all the people now had stories to tell and books to read. It was an exciting time. Winter, snow, and ice turned the kingdom into a land of crystal forests. Across the cold land, gathered near warm fires, you could hear voices telling stories and singing songs. The season slowly passed, and the spring returned, the trees dressed in soft amethyst buds. The rebirth swelled the spirits of the royalty and the royal subjects alike. For many months, the princess had been quite content. Then one day, while walking in the castle hall, she began to wonder why all the gray stone walls were empty and bare. She sensed something was missing. Perched on a nearby ledge, the ever-observant bird was aware that it was time to deliver another message. Once again, Raven Joeko lifted himself into the air, with Princess Sally's precious invitation held in his beak. Within 3 days, he had completed his mission. Calling to Princess Sally, he cried, "Come out into the garden. I have traveled a great distance to find this grand woman who brings to you and your kingdom yet another gift." Sally flew down the castle stairs to meet this new visitor. Ah, what treasures were to be found in the woman's basket! Drawing pencils, pastel crayons, paintbrushes, and all sorts of paper and paints. Best of all were the drawings that this woman made herself. This visitor was a remarkable person, filled with great knowledge and zeal. She shared her gifts freely, as a generous person would do. Thus, in a short time, old and young alike were painting and drawing. Amidst the expressive paintings, tapestries were hung, exquisite music filled the air, songs were sung and stories told. A new era had been born. All the kingdom rejoiced. At last, Princess Sally had been fulfilled. Her hunger had been satisfied. She had discovered the ways by which she could remain always joyful. Princess Sally's experience had been so profound that she took a vow to inspire people of all ages for all times. From her tower window, the princess addressed her people. "I wish to share these gifts we have received. Raven Joeko will continue to carry and deliver my invitations." Richly embroidered banners depicted in colorful scenes the story of Princess Sally and Raven Joeko. With a fanfare of trumpets and a chorus of voices raised in song, everyone celebrated. The storyteller ended his narration as a coarse caw from the raven broke the trance that seemed to have fallen on the children. Looking at the elderly man, they asked, "How do we find Princess Sally? Will the raven take us?" The man's eyes sparkled with a light years younger than the face that held them. Opening the white envelope, he pulled out the invitation and a map. Sweet rose petals fell out upon his lap. Laughing a marvelously wealthy laugh, he flung his arms about the children, saying, "You are going to travel very far. Come along, take a journey, off into a distant land. All you must do is close your eyes and imagine along." Princess Sally was in her beautiful garden when the children arrived with the storyteller and Raven Joeko. The visit was an experience to last a lifetime and more.